Hey, good morning. How are you guys? Just another day in the trenches. Not a bond guy. Yields seem like they're behaving. You trading the bond curve, the yield curve, 2s over 10s, 10s over 2s, steepeners, flatteners. He's got the steepeners on. Adani situation's very unique. I'm not looking into it or getting involved. It's not biopharma or tech, so for me, I got to pick my battles. So what sectors to look at? I'm so tired. I don't know why. Oh, I'm like sleepy. This is an app I created myself called Godel. It should be open to the public pretty soon. What stock do you guys want me to look at? Intel. Ubisoft. Snowflake. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna write up Intilia. I think it's a double. We'll put it on Substack at some point soon. You spelled Pfizer wrong. I looked at Pfizer yesterday. What's up, Iqlal? I don't know. Anti-aging's kind of silly to me. Yeah, I still like Liquidia. Splunk is a good one to look into. Godel is available to the public. You just have to get a beta invite. Express Scripts is not public anymore. I don't really care about what the Fed does. I'll paste the invite link in a minute. Let's dive into Intel. Alright, so the way I look at it is I start with the stock price. I look at the number of shares outstanding, which you can find in a few different places. One place to find it is just the 10K. The most recent 10 filing, whether it's a 10K or a 10Q, it's usually on like the first page. The way the SEC loads these things, even a super fast computer like mine, it gets a little messed up, so it's not a great system. Right, usually there's shares outstanding here. It is 4.137 million, so 4,137 million, so 4.137 billion shares outstanding. So market cap's 112 billion, just a fraction of like Nvidia's. It's funny. Nvidia used to be a pimple on Intel's butt. Now they're bigger than Intel. I'll be uploading this model on my GitHub. All my files are available on my GitHub totally for free as a courtesy to all you folks. Alright. So we need to look up their cash and debt. That's going to be on something called the balance sheet, which is one of the 3 financial statements. If you're not familiar with financial statements, you're about to get a world-class introduction. Financial statements are the life of the markets, the language of the markets, the lingua franca. You cannot understand business without understanding financial statements. The 3 financial statements tell basically the complete picture, the whole story of any company. You can encapsulate the entire business in those 3 statements. So we're just going to look through. The 10K is the annual report, so it's very detailed. It's got a lot of just a ton of data, and we're looking for the 3 financial statements. Sometimes it's sequestered in a separate file. Sometimes it isn't. But it won't take too long to find. We can also get some abridged financial statements from the press release. Sometimes they're not abridged at all, sometimes they are. I saw Latinx, I have to stop. Intel Latinx Leadership Council. Of course. Very woke. Alright, here's the income statement. So this the income statement tracks period results. That means for a year or for a quarter or for whatever. The balance sheet is a snapshot statement. It tracks, it tells you the account values at a specific date. So it's like a camera that takes a photo. And this is what we wanted. We want the most updated cash balance of the company, and that is for available each quarter. So the most recent one is available for this quarter, so we can get that added up. Looks like 34 billion, roughly. got to include anything that's kind of a liquid instrument, in my opinion. So those two and this one look liquid. And now we got to look at the debt. The debt is $4 billion here and then $37 billion there. And companies use debt for all kinds of reasons, stock buybacks, etc. So that's not necessarily a bad thing or anything. Okay, so those are the big six. It's 112 billion market cap, 120 billion enterprise value. If you don't know what an enterprise value is, it's a really important concept. If you struggle with that, you're not going to make it very far in investing. Take your time to learn and understand what it is. It's basically the market cap adjusted for the net cash. So, kind of what you're paying for the business, if that makes sense. All right, so now let's look at the income statement. We're looking at Intel, or InSmell if you're a juvenile. Or if you just lost a lot of money on Intel and you're mad. All right, so let's go back to the income statement because it tells the story of the company. And you can see that the revenue, which is the sales of their product, has gone down quite a lot actually. They dropped 20% this year. And they only grew 1% in 2021. So it's pretty interesting. Let's look at gross margin. Gross margin is the cost, basically the revenue after cost of goods sold. So it's kind of what's left after you deduct what it took to make the product you've actually sold. And you could look at it as on a percentage basis. So I'm going to look at that on a percentage basis and see how that tracks. It's kind of hard to eyeball that, you know. Maybe there's some savant out there that can eyeball it, but I can't. So looks like 43%. So as their sales went down, their margin dropped. That's kind of like a concept called deleveraging. Now they have some other expenses. R&D is their major expense. It looks like marketing, selling, and administrative, or marketing general administrative is actually their smaller cost. And that's funny because I was looking at NVIDIA and Texas Instruments, and that they all kind of work similarly. These semiconductor companies don't really need to advertise. It's kind of amazing. They just make their chips and they sell, and that's it. You know, there's no big marketing push or anything like that. So they turn out to be pretty profitable companies. Although Intel in this year was not very profitable, at least according to the income statement. We're going to look at the cash flow statement. It might tell a different story. So Intel's costs went up and up even though their revenue went down. In fact, you can see their costs rose dramatically over the last 2-3 years, but their revenue has dropped a bit, so it's a bit strange. But again, this could be a function of just a function of accounting. We're not going to include equity investment gains because that's typically not a recurring item. It's kind of a GAAP, non-GAAP thing. GAAP is generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. And we kind of prefer non-GAAP numbers when possible, although we want to understand the difference between GAAP and non-GAAP. All right, so this is taxes. Again, the non-GAAP concept. We have to basically adjust all this stuff for the fact that GAAP is very imperfect, especially for the investor. GAAP makes a lot of sense from an accounting perspective, but from an investor perspective, we have a lot of adjustments we have to make to kind of try to reflect the steady state of the business. So anyway, those are the last 3 years for Intel. I actually kind of want to look at NVIDIA real quick just so you can get a sense for like, I'm going to put it up here. You get a sense for just how different these two companies are. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So NVIDIA's a lot smaller revenue-wise, even though they're got three times the market cap. Isn't that funny? All right, let's look. So this is fiscal year ended 23, so this is sort of going to be like full year 2022. So let's put that in 26,923. And then that's 26,914 and 16,675. Okay, so NVIDIA had a monster 2021, while Intel only grew 1%. And then while NVIDIA stayed flat, so in a tough environment, Intel dropped 20%. So you can kind of see the ratio of the two closing, the gap closing, because NVIDIA seems to be a lot better positioned than Intel on a product side. Intel sort of always ignored the graphics chip market as, oh, that's a small market, but obviously they messed that up pretty bad. All right, let's now kind of look at the cash flow statement. So the cash flow statement basically reconciles the income statement, and it's pretty complicated, unfortunately. But once you understand how the cash flow statement works, you really start to reach the end of financial statement understanding, and you can sort of get to financial statement interpretation, which is a bit different. Just because you understand it doesn't mean you understand what it says, doesn't mean you really understand what's going on and how to interpret it from an investor's perspective. Those are two different things. But so we're going to basically take what our model's net income is, what reported net income was, and we're going to try to sort of reconcile them, basically. I just want to glance at this. Oh, I see. They had a $4 billion one-time gain. So that's what we excluded. All right, so how did the business go from making, depending on whose definitions, if you use our definition, they made $4 billion in 2022. If you look at Intel's definition, they made $8 billion, but the actual cash they made, so that's the income statement, that's the reported net income, but the actual cash flow they made was $15 billion. So how do you reconcile that? And the same thing happened here where there's almost no difference between Intel's and ours, and here where there's very little difference between Intel's and ours, they actually had a lot more cash flow. So how did that happen? Well, there's a lot of reasons there. This is a list of all the adjustments. The biggest adjustment is depreciation, which is a non-cash expense, right? When something depreciates, you don't actually lose money. You sort of lose accounting value. And that's the biggest difference. But we also have CapEx, which is a cash expense, but it's not run through the income statement. CapEx is when you buy a good and you capitalize it, and then you depreciate it. So that's kind of a lot of what's going on here, but let's keep looking. And theoretically, those two should kind of balance out. I mean, this is like a Bob Ross. I'm tempted to say something about little trees or something like that, but I don't know, what does he say? Happy little trees. It's happy little depreciation. And there's amortization. We are looking at Intel, yeah. EBITDA is a acronym that means earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. If I didn't name my cat Trashy, I was going to name her EBITDA. I know somebody who named their dog EBITDA. Amortization is like depreciation, just for intangible items. All right, divestitures. Yeah, I saw Fetty Wap's in prison. Poor guy. All right, and finally, working capital changes. So if you add all these up, they actually equal to cash flow from operations, or probably better said, this is how you get cash flow from operations. Let's see if it sums up. Oh, didn't work. Let's see why. Might have messed something up. Ah, I see. 1 minus sign makes all the difference. Okay, there it is. All right, so it sounds good that they made $15 billion, but they also had CapEx, so we gotta remove the CapEx, and that's gonna change the picture pretty dramatically. Their CapEx for the year was $24 billion, so Intel lost money this year, or 2022, last year, I guess, which is a little frightening. Again, it was a rough year for semiconductors, but this is supposed to be like this capacity-constrained industry that's supposed to be making a fortune right now, and Intel is one of the only companies that has capacity, so I don't see why they're having such a rough time. You know, the recession's not here, it's not like the economy is contracting too much. So it makes me wonder how they're going to do it in an environment that's a lot worse, right? Like semiconductor companies are very cyclical, so they're very sensitive to economic conditions. And again, Intel's sort of investing for the future, but in cyclical industries, companies do this all the time. When there's a supply constraint and supply is really tight, they invest a ton in factories and equipment, and then guess what happens? The opposite happens, where everybody has a ton of supply and there's all these products and they can't move them. So it's a very cyclical industries are tough for that reason. You know, you have to really time, in the long run it's very hard to do, time the business cycle, which is as hard as it sounds. Very, very difficult. So if you net these two out, you kind of get a concept called free cash flow. And you'll get 21 billion, 11 billion, and a loss of 9 billion. So how do you think about that? You know, the traditional rookie way of doing this stuff is like an earnings multiple, right? An earnings multiple is hey Geggy511, thanks for subscribing. An earnings multiple is kind of a poor man's way of doing a DCF. And how do you put an earnings multiple on earnings that are this volatile, right? If you look at like a company that has steady earnings, that's making 10 billion one year, 10.5, 11, etc., you can kind of put a multiple on it, but you can't put a multiple on this, right? Because you put 15 times earnings. Well, in 1 year, the company's worth 300 billion. In another year, it's worth 160 billion. Another year, it's worth negative. So earnings multiples tend to fail when a company has volatile earnings. So one thing we could do is look at the average earnings. And some people call that CAPE's cyclically adjusted PE ratio. So you look at it over 3 years and you say, okay, they made 7.6 billion. Well, what's the PE ratio, or the EV to E ratio, which is probably more important? 16 times earnings. And you have to think about, well, is that reasonable or not? I don't know. But we also don't know if that's a fair way to look at it, because if this year is another negative year, let's say just a little smaller, now our average number is 4.5 billion. And 26 times is a lot different from 15 times, right? But if it's positive 10 billion, now we're really starting to look at something that could be like a cheap stock. So I really just don't know. And part of it is, if they're doing this free cash flow spend as this kind of big one-time just like resizing of their footprint so they have more capacity, this would really be obscuring the earnings. And we also don't know why revenue dipped. We have to learn about the company, right? As much as the numbers tell the story of the company, we don't know every detail. We have to, we have to, we have to really understand the company. Even if these numbers looked really good, I would question it the other way and say, maybe this is a one-time gain that will reverse itself. So investing is really tricky because you have to be an expert in that industry. That's why you notice like none of these files are filled out for hardware and semiconductors, because I don't really follow hardware and semiconductors. I find it fascinating, of course, but look at my biopharma sheet. Every model is filled out because I follow this sector much more closely. But for semiconductors, I don't, it's not my field, and to be able to keep on top of one field is hard enough, let alone 2 or 3 or 4. It's basically impossible. But I like learning new things, and I like helping you guys out, so I try my best to do that, but I also am not going to pretend I'm a semiconductor expert. I know a little bit. I used to work at some tech hedge funds, so I've gotten exposure to semiconductors over the years, but, I'd be mistaken if I told you that, I can tell you everything about how fabs are designed and what it takes to look at the back end and front end of semiconductors and the relationship between Intel and ASML and Applied Materials and who's a customer for who and who designs chips for who and all that stuff. I don't know. I can tell you all that stuff about in pharma. Isn't it interesting? Texas Instruments is also bigger than Intel now. Intel's really falling apart. Poor guys. It used to be the bellwether, old word people don't say anymore. The bellwether for the industry. The 10K probably be pretty fascinating to read in full. Let's read it briefly. We are an industry leader. Man, they were the industry leader by far. There was nobody even close. Have a positive effect on business, society, and the planet. It's always funny when these really big companies that used to be even bigger, they're still really focused on ESG because they still have that shadow of their former self. NVIDIA doesn't talk like that. NVIDIA's like, yeah, we're here to make money, man. Man, we don't care about ESG. Whereas the Intel thing is all about, we're here to make a positive difference in the world. Intel's had a lot of management turnover. Five superpowers: compute, pervasive connectivity. Okay, I understand the first one. Pervasive connectivity sounds like the internet. Cloud to edge infrastructure, I guess. Cloud to edge infrastructure. I guess I understand what they're saying there. AI and sensing. Okay. Five superpowers. All right, so they have CCG. I think that's Client Computing Group. Decreased 23%. DCAI, I have no idea. I think it's data center. Decreased 15%. And NEX increased 11%. Results were impacted by an uncertain macro environment with slowing consumer demand, inflation, and interest rates. Level of uncertainty with our customers. It's interesting, the GDP. I'm trying to see if there's a good relationship with GDP, and I should probably graph that. 20% discount's not enough. No ESG in my valuation. All right, CCG was down on lower notebook and desktop volume, while notebook and desktop ASPs were higher. DCI server volume decreased, led by enterprise customers tempering purchases, reduced inventories, and a softening data center market. I thought the data center market was the only market that was doing well for like cloud, but I guess, I don't know. Server ASPs decreased due to customer product mix. Next revenue increased primarily due to Ethernet ASPs and increased demand for 5G products. This is their NEX is like their networking business. I think it's probably the smallest business though. Blaming everything, the war in Ukraine, COVID, supply chain. And we expect it to extend into 2023. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the product roadmap is one of the most important things in semiconductors, and it's often a little tricky, but I guess it's the 12th gen HX or Intel Core HX, and semiconductor experts, okay, Alder Lake, they codename their processor sets. They have Sapphire Rapids, Raptor Lake, and Ponte Vecchio. There's an ASIC. I think they bought Altera years ago to get the ASIC business. X86 architecture. You gotta wonder when X86 dies, right? It's the 8086, and of course 386, 486. Maybe it'll never die. Here's the trailing 5 years. You can see quite a bit of cash flow. So it looks like 2022 is definitely a cyclical slowdown that hopefully represents the trough for them, but it may not, right? Yeah, the Apple is a serious competitor now in this stuff. Obviously, they don't make products for clients. Laptop GPUs and high performance desktop GPUs, A7 series, Intel Arc. So this is their attempt to, I guess, get into NVIDIA's business. A little late. Employees by gender. Well, they got a ways to go. What's URM? I don't know that acronym. Underrepresented minority. You guys URMs? Any URMs in here? Damn, they really have a way to go. Almost everybody at the company is not a URM. They're almost all male. That's more important than profit. I don't really care about their profit as long as their URMs are going up. Naked short selling is not a real thing, no. No, there's no unlimited money glitch. That'd be cool. But no, no such thing. I don't know why people are so in love with conspiracies. Just do your hard work. Surf and Billy, I totally agree. AMC, man, what a rotten company. AMC, GameStop, those kind of sorry companies. Apple M1 and M2. Yeah, I also I probably have to make an AMD model to really get a sense for this as well. Here's CCG. Looks like CCG notebook, CCG desktop. Notebook, 18.8 billion. Desktop, 10.7 billion. So I guess it's still a PC, very much a PC server heavy company, which makes sense, I guess. And then other. So that's 33 billion. 31.7, okay. That's half the company, roughly, is client computing, so that's not Servers, that's just PCs for people. It's about half the business, CCG. And then I'm guessing servers are most of the second half. So here's data center and AI. Yeah, it's amazing to see their revenue go like this while NVIDIA's goes like that. But I don't want to belabor the point about Intel having a rough decade. Network and edge. So this is like a relatively new business for Intel that's doing a little better than kind of a bright spot. That's really it. Oh, Mobileye is... I thought they spun this thing out. Do they still own most of it, maybe? Looks like they sold 6%. 6% of Mobileye. So it looks like they still own most of Mobileye. This is a bright spot as well. Pretty small though. Intel will be acquired? That'd be wild, right? I doubt it. I think somebody, the right management team will restore Intel to its prior glory, hopefully. It'd be sad if they got acquired. Wouldn't that be funny? NVIDIA, yeah, we're just buying Intel, whatever. Oh, accelerated compute systems and graphics. Whew. This is a new business unit? Cute. Intel Foundry? How many business units do they have? Oh, they can make a comeback. They just, like you said, need to really simplify their company. I'm not sure they need to have all this stuff. They may want to sell networking, for example. Really just focus on chips. I know it's like they want to be a little bit NVIDIA, they want to be a little bit Taiwan Semi, they want to be a little bit AMD, like just be really good at one thing, I think. But I don't know. They thought they were really good at one thing and they lost their way. All right, well, we looked at a little bit of this stuff. I think I want to look at probably one more 10K and just like pop it in. And then we can kind of look more on the product side. You can see this stuff is fairly intensive. It's a little boring. If investing was exciting, more people would do it and make more money. You have to plow through huge amounts of information. It can be a bit tedious, but you get used to it. Who was this guy? Bob Swan. People really didn't like Bob Swan. They basically fired Mr. Swan. Ice Lake, 10 nanometer. did sell the NAND flash business, so I have to be a little bit careful to make sure that we understand the delta there. Sometimes when a company acquires or whatever, disposes of another company, you got to be careful that you're not looking at, you're assuming that growth or shrinkage is organic or inorganic. Because obviously, you know, it can impact what it looks like the growth rate is. A lot of slow growth companies use acquisitions to kind of make their growth look higher than it normally is. Okay, let's move these up a little. Okay, so here's what revenue growth for Intel looked like 2016 to 2022. I'm actually gonna look at GDP. See if I can get the GDP data. 2022 looked like basically close to flat, or according to the government at least. Trying to pull this up, it's not simple. Okay, so let's see. We try to like superimpose GDP. See if there's anything we can kind of glean from that. So confused. Ah. All messed up. Hold on. No correlation whatsoever. I wonder if it's a leading indicator for GDP. Meta earnings tonight. I can't wait. It's going to be very exciting. You can see the huge amount of buybacks Intel's done. They've gone from 5 billion shares outstanding to 4 billion shares outstanding. So pretty impressive. Once again, we'll look at the cash flow statement and get an understanding of what exactly is going on here. I'm just going to put in the CFFO at the bottom. You can see how a little bit of revenue change can result in a gigantic cash flow change. They basically go from profitable to unprofitable very quickly. Okay, so over the last 5 years, Intel free cash flow has averaged 11 billion, which makes the stock look quote unquote really cheap based on 11 times earnings, but I think they're saying that 2023 is not going to be a good year. So let's take a look at the recent comments. Fourth quarter revenue is down 32%. Wow. I'm guessing this is nanometers, so Intel 7 is the 7 nanometer process, is my guess. I wonder where we're going in terms of fabrication and wafer size. Can we go to less than 1 nanometer? I think there's a atom limit, right? The width of an atom is like 0.1 nanometers, isn't it? an angstrom. I know this from my chemical simulation world. Nine gigahertz, wow. Overclocked. And you guys do overclocking? Wafer. Was it wafer diameter or wafer thickness? Okay, here's the guidance. Wow, 10 to 11 billion. Oof. 30% gross margin. Wow, what a stinker. They laid an egg. That's not a good run rate, right? Interesting they didn't give guidance for 2023. Until the great American shrinking company. Might go out to a business meeting a little later. Let's see. My business meetings, we smoke weed. I don't know if you knew that. We light blunts and talk business. I've had 10 executives come in from Japan. They say, Mr. Shukoreri-san, we like to make partnership with your company. I said, yes, but will you smoke this first? I'm just kidding, I've never smoked. I haven't had one cigarette my whole life. I haven't had one marijuana cigarette my whole life. Just not my thing. Just blaze. 420, blaze it. Nightmare blunt rotation. Mark Cuban. My nightmare blunt rotation. Mark Cuban, Kamala Harris. I'm trying to think who else I don't like. Maybe Jason Calacanis? Yeah, that's a nightmare blunt rotation. Go yeah, sheep. Would I smoke a blunt for $500 million? Yeah, no problem. Xi Jinping, that'd be a funny fucking guy to smoke a blunt with. Dream blunt rotation. Nicki Minaj, Anna Kendrick. I think you get my drift. Sydney Sweeney. Throw the homie Scott Aronson in for fun. Maybe Lex Friedman could be in the back too. What's up, girls? Who's that nerd? Don't worry about my buddy Lex. He's a crazy Russian guy. Oh yeah, another nightmare blunt rotation would be fucking Andrew Tate. Imagine listening to Andrew Tate blab on and on. Man, shut up. The fuck do you know about money? The fuck do you know about anything? Made me smack you. You know who else would be really annoying to hang out with? Sam Bankman. That guy seems annoying as shit. His voice is so annoying. High-pitched ass voice. Acting like he's smarter than everyone else. Fuck you. He'd be trying to sell the blunt, that's a fact. Bill Clinton would definitely be chill, but still not somebody I like, but he's cool. He's a lot cooler than you-know-who. Carolyn. Tremendously more money? That's funny. Andrew Tate. I don't care about the Fed. Do they even do anything? Do they set interest rates, or does the market set interest rates? Do you guys know? Somebody tell me. Please remind me. I don't get why people like Joe Rogan so much. He's got a good sense of humor, I guess. I don't know. I like really smart people. I don't know. He's the everyman. Sounds about right. It's kind of like what Howard Stern was, right? I'm not the everyman. I'm not trying to be the everyman. I'm trying to be the best man. You know what I mean? Prometheus, Unchained. I'm trying to rap. I'm trying to blow you away with these bars. All right, so Intel revenue is going to drop 40% next quarter. 40%? You're funny. I'm going to see Lex shortly. I don't think Lex cares if I like Joe Rogan or not. I'm not saying I don't like Joe Rogan, I just don't see the appeal. So, Intel's revenue is dropping 40% next quarter. I mean, it's been on that trajectory, right? But, oh man, what a shadow of its former self. I don't even know how to value this, right? Yeah, I'll be on Lex's podcast in the next week or two. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm sure it's a good product, I just don't care to watch it. So, what's the shape of Intel's recovery going to be? Like, could this be like the worst year ever for this company? Can you imagine? This could be Intel's worst year ever. Oh yeah, I should probably get all my prison stories in place. I should stream, if I'm not in a meeting, I'll stream the meta earnings. That's a good idea. So why the drop in revenue is a good question. Basically, what I think's happening, I'm sorry to turn this into the semiconductor hour, but basically what I think's happening is AMD and NVIDIA have taken over a lot of their market, as well as Apple. So let's look at AMD really briefly. China. It's all China's fault. China. Good luck. I haven't read Nietzsche too much now. My dad is a big philosophy guy. I don't have the time. Famous people I admire: Scott Aronson, Nick Bostrom, there's not too many business people I admire. I admire Warren Buffett, obviously. Terry Tao, okay. Now we're talking. I do admire Terry. I'd smoke a blunt with Munger. He's not my favorite guy, though. It'd be funny if Charlie Munger, at almost 100 years old, wanted to smoke a blunt with me. That'd be dope. I would smoke weed for the first time ever. No problem. Carl Icahn, I admire is a weird word, right? I respect Carl Icahn. I don't know if I admire him. I guess I do. He's similar to me in a lot of ways. He grew up in New York, rough and tumble kind of guy. made into the big business world by pushing his way in. Get out of my way. I want in. He willed himself to success. Pretty cool. We're going to ETH Denver. Yes, we are. I'll see you there. If anybody wants to come hang out, ETH Denver. Shit, I might just host a party. Smoking with butyrine. Actually, Vitalik butyrine would be a decent blunt rotation. I like Soros, the trader. I don't know much about Soros, the person. AMD incorporated in 1969. Wow. Did not know that. The Xilinx deal. Did Xilinx close? Yeah, I think it closed. Closed like 6 months ago, maybe. Well, it's weird because, like, if you look at AMD and NVIDIA, they're still relatively small players compared to Intel. And I have a Texas Instruments model, although those guys aren't really apples to apples. Big three. So if you define the semiconductor market as these three companies, which obviously it's not that. Intel's market share of that has been 80%, then 75, then 65, then 59. Oof, brutal. Yeesh. That's a lot of market share loss. Oof. Roof. Datadog. Roof. Datadog's my favorite company. DDOG. Datadog. Roof. That should be their commercial. Okay, and if it goes to 50 billion, that's even scarier. Because now you're looking at even less. Pretty ugly. Yeah, you like New Relic? We just subscribed to New Relic. AMD has no debt? Damn. Issue some debt, dog. Oh, I guess with Xilinx, they're probably going to issue a lot of debt. Although I don't know if that was a stock deal or what. Call up Goldman, man. Call Morgan Stanley. Sell me some bonds. You got to diversify your bonds, brother. At least I gotta look at the most recent Q for Intel, or for AMD, before I can say this, what I want to say. Then what I want to do is next steps. I mean, the numbers are great and everything, but I'd like to look at the actual wafers, the product specs. I want to buy a wafer. I'm just going to buy one, just hang it up on the wall. So I really understand the wafer. I'm going to put my ear to it, see if it tells me anything. Silicon. I'm going to buy a applied materials lithography setup. I'm going to etch a wafer myself. Now you got to learn how to do this. You feel me? You can't just pretend. You got to do it IRL. You can't LARP as a semiconductor analyst. You got to really get that equipment. Do a little deposition. Get a clean room in the crib. I got 2 monitors. I got 2 phones. Baby's first wafer. Okay, something's messed up. Net income. Operating expenses. Oh. I think I see what happened. Yeah, so there's got to be a decent website for semiconductor product characteristics and other information, performance. I used to be into desktop performance computing. Not really my thing anymore. I wasn't even that into it back then. It's hard to keep up. You really have to get into the overclocking scene and get really excited about this stuff, which is not really my thing. Taxes are all messed up for this company. All right, so obviously AMD has absolutely killed it, right? They've done even better than NVIDIA. So something's got to change for Intel to I'm going to see if AMD reported Q4. I don't think so. Looks like they did last night. Yeah. Okay. 23.6. Wow. What a beast. Do they give guidance? I doubt they gave guidance, right? They gave first quarter, so down year over year. Stock's up. It looks like the simple story is AMD is just murdering Intel. There's really no other way to put it. Right? These guys make the same fucking product. One of them has revenue going up a lot, one of them has revenue going down a lot. Not too much to this story. So the question is, when will that stop? And has this happened before? AMD's had like these fits and starts. And I don't know how they can out-research Intel with a budget that's like 1/10 of the size. It reminds me of something Art Levinson told me a long time ago. Just talking about the differences between organizations and their R&D. Oh, okay, well this includes Xilinx, so we gotta be a little careful. Xilinx probably contributed most of that growth. So be a little careful there. Although they didn't close Xilinx for the full year, right? But the Xilinx deal made them a bigger company, so keep that in mind. Looks like it was almost all a stock deal. They don't have any debt. They don't have much, 2467. Yeah, it looks like it was almost completely a stock deal. Looks like Intel and AMD are roughly the same market cap or enterprise value. Sad day, sad day. So they're saying 5 billion. Wow. For Q1. 5.3, right? It's a lot better than Intel's predicting. Wow, man. Sickening. Sickening. All right, so let's try to model what the future of Intel will look like. It's going to be tricky. But if anybody can do it, it's me. Let's go out to 2035. We're not going to assume any cyclicality. We're going to assume that the world exists without booms and busts. We're going to assume that there's just steady growth in GDP. Before I do this, I want one more piece of data. We'll look at biotech. Calm down. Calm your ass. We looked at some biotech yesterday. I'm here to please. Somebody wanted to see Intel. I was curious about Intel. Don't make me escort you out the building. Sir, you need to leave right now, sir. What'd I do? That's when I put the muscle to his elbow. Sir. Should I make an Excel tutorial? I don't know. I think it's pretty simple software. You just got to dive into it. Don't be afraid. Oh man, I picked the wrong year. darn it. Oh my gosh. Intel spending like 11 billion in R&D back then when AMD was planning its products with 5% of the spend and is gaining market share on them. Sad. Pathetic. It's amazing. Part of me thinks they can make a comeback. Part of me is wondering. So it's almost like a biotech company where you have to do a probabilistic quantum mechanical model. I'm joking about the quantum mechanical part, but you do have to sort of consider a duality that maybe they make it, maybe they don't. We're almost ready to start thinking about what could a share of Intel be worth. That's what we spent the last 2 hours preparing for this moment. Are you ready? Whoever asked me is probably long gone. They're like, F this, I don't have the patience. You need a lot of patience when you work in finance. You gotta really be willing to, ADHD is not your friend in this industry. You gotta be willing to sit here think, plug, crunch, talk to people, get to the bottom of things. Wow, look at this. Over 9 years, they had cash flow of $13 billion, almost fairly regularly, and then just had this enormous problem in 2022 and 2023. It make a lot of sense, right? These are also years of uninterrupted growth in the economy. Do I need to go back even a little more? Back to like a more of a recession type period? I think I might have to. It'll only take 5 more minutes. We've been here 2 hours, we might as well. Tech is funny. Like, in tech, you need to know the next quarter. That's why the insider traders love tech. You need to know what's going on next quarter before it happens. Because otherwise, you really can come up with a long-term thesis based on the technology, but you don't know if that thesis is on track or not. You can do some probabilistic weightings of like, okay, this is a theoretically a good opportunity, but if the quarters don't start working in your direction, it doesn't really matter what you project. That's why tech is very tricky. And you need to keep your ear to the ground and watch the quarterly reports like a hawk, because if something's going wrong, you got to redefine your whole thesis and everything's fucked. So tech requires the so-called channel checks, which are basically illegal. If you do them the right way, you're asking people, well, how's the business going for Intel? Or you like their chips or do you not like their chips? And if they say no, you exit your investment. But basically, you're kind of getting insider info. So I don't like that whole process of tech investing. It irks me. It's always irked me. And it's especially ironic given that, I've been to prison. The hedge fund world is a very dangerous job. There's a lot of people who've gone to jail for doing channel checks too aggressively. So how do you know what the line is, right? How do you know, like, oh, well, you can ask that question, but don't ask that question. And, there's some pretty good frameworks and rules for it. Don't get me wrong, it's not that hard, but... All right, you can see that there was some volatility in their cash flow this year. 2006. 2008 will be really interesting. It's not the same in pharma, no. In pharma, you can bet on product trajectories, and they're much less volatile quarter to quarter, because you can't change the product attribute. You don't get new product releases. You get one product release every 10 years. So that's a bit different. And you can basically predict how well the product will do based on the product attributes. Whereas here, it's really not that easy. You kind of have to see the sales with your own eyes, if that makes sense. So it looks like 2008, they didn't have much of a revenue decline, even though that was a very challenging year cyclically. Let's see if they were a lagging indicator in 2009 was rough for them.
Yeah, 2008 and 2009 were rough, but they weren't this rough. They weren't down 40%. Jeez, what the heck is going on? Remember that Intel used the Bee Gees as their ad campaign? That was great. Intel used to have 6.2 billion shares outstanding. Now they have, I think I remember when they had 7. Now they have 4. Yeah, so the 2008 recession didn't phase Intel. Very odd. Semiconductor cycle and the economic cycle aren't 100% overlap, I guess. So the semi cycle right now is hitting this big bump, but you wouldn't know it if you talked to AMD. You would sort of know it if you talk to NVIDIA. They've had a big slowdown. Yeah, and there's the boom in the cycle right back in 2010 to peak cash flows. So they have a business cycle and a market share cycle, like a product cycle, and they're at the trough of both, which is why it's like a perfect storm. And usually you want to buy stocks, right, when there's a perfect storm, because it can't get any worse. Although there's no reason to think it can't get worse for Intel. That's sort of what I'm saying about the directionality and, I guess, instantaneous rate of change, basically, for Intel. And for most of tech, but especially for semiconductors, you have that concept of like, you have to know how the business is doing right now, like almost like a week-to-week thing to make sure that it's on track. Maybe there's some like savants who can see the technology and say, oh, they really have this advantage. But generally speaking, that's kind of not the way it works. Usually, no matter what the technology looks like, you sort of have to see the sales coming to fruition. So they had 15 billion in cash flow, free cash flow back then, 2011. And that seemed like another cyclical top. And the quarterly reports are basically what those updates are, right? But okay, let's I'm not a big fan of you doing graphs in Excel, but this is an interesting data set. This is free cash flow for Intel. I just want you to see kind of like how different a semiconductor company's cash flow looks from most companies. Real big swings in net income. And this is something else, right? Unprecedented. All right, so let's take a stab at this. I'm going to assume the semiconductor market grows at 5% per annum until 2035. That's not a crazy assumption, I think. I'm going to assume that Intel's share of this market never recovers to 80%. It does kind of recover to 60, maybe 65%, let's say. That's really simple analysis. What happens if Intel gets back a little bit of its prior success? Doesn't have to get all of it back, just a little. Well, maybe half. Let's say its margins maybe don't go back to a peak of 65, but they go back to, say, high 50s. It's like a probabilistic deep value play in some ways. Don't worry about the things in my room, all right? Creeper. Stop creeping, creepy internet people. I have a new cat coming very shortly. Gonna do a big cat unveil party soon. To replace Trashy. All right, we get a valuation of $200 billion for Intel. $50 a share, quite a lot more than 27. So could it be a deep value play? Very lofty assumptions, yes, yes, yes. If they make their comeback, a partial comeback. But again, it's sort of fraught with that guesswork. But my guess is typically in this kind of investing, you have to make some probabilistic gamble, and I hate to gamble. And you don't have to gamble, right? You can gamble basically assume Intel doesn't recover very much, but it can hold its own. I mean, they're still the sort of preferred chip customer. I mean, their business is still, 3 times in AMD. Let's make some simpler assumptions. I mean, if they don't recover, if they barely recover at all, you don't lose any money. So it seems like, I mean, it could certainly get worse. If things get worse for them, you will lose money. So the market basically assumes they make a very, very tepid recovery. And remember, they're in a cyclical trough and a product trough. So it's supposed to look like it's the worst right now. And I kind of think that I kind of feel like I don't know. The market, assuming they never recover, seems like just doesn't seem like the right reality. They've never had margins this low. They've never had I don't know. It's certainly possible that that's what happens. And again, I have to learn more about the industry. But it seems like a decent speculative long, They have to recover just a little bit of their prior success, and the stock is double. But people said the same thing about IBM and all these other companies. But again, you have to think about it probabilistically, not as like you're holding a gun to your head. Is this worth 1% of your portfolio? Probably. That's right too, Freddie. Freddie's right that destabilization in Taiwan would make a big difference for Intel too. And they do have a new strategy, right? They kind of want to do the foundry stuff. Again, that could actually be a bigger risk for them than anything else. That actually might hurt them. But if they execute it, there's some optionality there. Let me share these models with you guys. So if you want to pull them up yourselves, you can go to my GitHub. If you haven't used GitHub, it's a really great file sharing tool. It's used for so-called version control in computer programming, which is what I predominantly use it for, but I also use it to share these files. So you can just go to my GitHub. It's github.com/martinshkreli/models. Make sure you star or watch the repo if you haven't. If you want to try the software that is in my background here, I'll give you the link right now. It's called Godel Terminal. Making this terminal to replace the Bloomberg terminal, which is very, very expensive, very bad at product service and product quality. And my product is at least free to start. Bloomberg has no free product. So sign up for that, and I'll send you a login. It's invite only, so I may refuse your application, but I'm accepting most of them. Yeah, professional financial tools for free. There's nothing like this out there on the web for free. We'll look at Meta earnings later tonight. I'm going to check and see if I'm going to go to this meeting.
If not, I'll keep streaming, but I'll be back for Meta most likely. Thanks for subscribing, YPP Dennis. I definitely want to look at Merck. Shall we? Shall we? Merck is tomorrow, so we can do Merck tomorrow morning. I don't know bio-nanogenomics. I never heard of them. I look at real companies. Roblox? Roblox? Maybe want to look at Roche. Roche is tomorrow morning too. It's going to be a hell of a busy day for Pharma.
have to make like a Mongo database of all the pharmaceuticals in the world. I think that'd be good. So you can just like have one uniform like system. I've looked at MDB. It's amazing how well Mongo has done. I guess lebrikizumab ended up going to Eli Lilly. Glofitamab. This is a bispecific CD20, CD3. There's a bunch of these out there, including Roche's other CD20, CD3. They have two. The CD3 is the T cell attachment point, so a lot of people do bispecifics to CD3. Tiragolumab is their TIGIT. Novo Nordisk. Amazing company. Okay, so here's the CD19 bispecific, I think. 41BBL. Yeah, it's bispecific antibody-like fusion protein, so it's got a co-stimulatory domain. Okay, I think I understand how it works. This looks like a Wilms tumor target. HLA-A2, Wilms tumor 1, CD3. Interesting. Intracellular Wilms tumor in AML. WT1 is an important protein. Hey, what's up, Allie? CD70. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think that this target's been looked at a little bit, but it'd be great if there was a new drug. I think it's hematological malignancies. Probably just about to leave for this meeting, so just hitting up my partners right now to head on out. Mage target has never been a great target, Mage A4, but
they're also bringing CD3 into it, so. Hello Fresh? I don't even know the... Is it a delivery company? Meal kit company, okay. Doesn't seem like it would scale well. Those businesses have scaling problems. Looks like they have fenebrutinib for multiple sclerosis. I don't know if the BTK inhibitors will work there. What do you guys think? I gotta go look into that, I guess. I think their beta amyloids have already failed. Lunsumio. When did Lunsumio get approved? This is mosunetuzumab. I think that's a... (12/22/2022). So this thing just got approved 2 months ago. All right. Let's see if they have a website. 'Cause, 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 'c Third line, follicular. This is their VEGF. Most people don't think that Ang2 does anything. Intravitreal injection. How would you guys like one of those? Right in your eye. Give you that shot right here. No, you don't want it? Shot right in the eye. I'm gonna do it to Trashy. No, you can't really get to the back of the eye with just eye drops, unfortunately. New kitty? New kitty reveal? We're gonna have a whole party? Tuna party? Tuna party? Trashy's not invited. I'm sick of Trashy. I'm done with Trashy. Yeah, I don't even think you could get there with the VHH. Patty. No, I think Karen doesn't want me to have Patty. I think we gotta name the new cat. On stream, what do you think? Chairman Meow. EBITDA. EBITDA isn't a cute name. I want to name my cat like Schmoopy. Schmoopy baby. Smoochers. Zubu. Boolean. Mushy mush. I'm gonna call her mushy mush anyway. Yeah, I don't know. The Roche Phase 3 pipeline's looking a little bare. They report earnings tomorrow with Merck. We got Facebook tonight. Sorry, Meta. Let's see. Oh, they're repurposing belovaptan for PTSD. At least they're trying something. Gene therapy for Pompeii, that's cool. Retrophin. I know, if I get unbanned on Twitter, I'll be so happy. Do I believe in gene therapy? I mean, there's FDA-approved gene therapies, so it's kind of hard not to believe in it. It's not like the boogeyman, or do I believe in Santa Claus? Give it an Albanian name, I don't know. Call it Zog or something. I call it Matza sometimes. I say, what's up, Matza? Hoja. That's a mean ass name for a cat. Maybe for a boy cat who is like very stern looking. Hoja. It's a mean ass name for a mean ass cat. Come here, Hoja. Zerka. I can name it Zerka. Zerka, chkake bon. Rafta pika Zerka. Some real Albanian shit. Matza mut. Shivsha nanin matza. Machak. Mehangr matza. Famous Albanian dishes? We don't really are not known for our food, man. It's like peasant food. Mediterranean stuff. Just think Greek. Sheep bear. Klingon. No, I'm speaking Albanian.
Yo, Martin, are you here?
Yo.
Just deafened or are you AFK?
Discord. What's going on here?
Alright, I'll just DM you.
Trying to get my partner to wake up and head down to this meeting. But the guy will be around for a couple hours, so not that big a deal. But I'll just go myself if I don't hear from him. Looking at Baxter. good name for a cat right there. Baxter did a big acquisition. I don't think they have organic growth. I'll have to take a look. Alright, let's see what else is going on. Negative 89 plus 44 plus 11. Okay. What am I doing here? Negative 89 plus 44 plus 11. There we go. Plus 40 plus 3, 508. Cool. So when did they close that deal is the question. Right? I don't think so. Oh, what do I have? Taxes backwards here? December 13th, 2021, they closed Hillrom. $10.5 billion, one of the biggest medtech deals of all time. I don't think Albanians use much condiment. Salt, krip, olive oil. All right, so we got Pharma. Renal care, it's dialysis. Medication delivery, that's like pumps. Clinical nutrition, it's like TPN, right? Surgery. Acute therapies, whatever that is. Like ER stuff, I don't know. Biopharma solutions. Now you have all the Hillrom stuff. So there's no growth, it looks like, outside of their acquisition. Kind of a boring, much more boring business than the ones we're used to looking at.
makes Intel, I mean, look as wild as it really is. Looks like they bought that business with all debt too. I always love when companies do that. Lowest possible cost of capital.
Yo.
All right, cool. What else? See, they had the acquisition impact, but I want to see how it impacted cash flows. I don't look at Medtech too much, but given my ban from Pharma, I might have to spend more time on that, although I expect that ban will be reversed pretty promptly. How do you ban somebody? I ban you from working. So illegal. Export CSV data. Okay, interesting. I haven't thought of that. Let me try that. Sounds cool. We on Wall Street would like to thank you for your amazing insight. Hadn't considered that possibility. With our trillions of dollars, your insight has changed the way we're going to do business. I now present you with the key to the city. All right, so cash flow is well above net income, but they have a bunch of capex. Use
for that quarter. Pretty meager cash flows to support a $38 billion company, I gotta say. The hell? What in tarnation? What the devil? This don't make no goddamn sense. I mean, just looking at the revenue, it's 3 times sales. There ain't no cash flow. Let's see if they had any in Q3. Not really. Could be a good short. It's a no growth company. You got shit going on. Short Baxter, long Intel, is that what we learned today? Impairments here. Yeah, Novo's doing really well. Everybody knows that. The problem is, what's next, I guess? And can you get a sense for their longevity of the product and how big those markets could really get? They're one of the largest pharmaceutical companies now. Right, so that's 772. Interesting. I mean, there's really no cash flow here. 300 million in free cash flow. It's 100 times earnings. That's obviously just over 3 quarters. If I had, be really generous, give them 465. I mean, they had more cash flow last year without Hillrom, right? So if you look at that, they're doing 19 times
last year's free cash flow. I wonder if that's what's going on this year that's obscuring free cash flow. I haven't looked at this company very much, but it's certainly, yeah, biosimilars have been real shitty. It's all priced in. It's all priced in. Well, I guess Baxter's suffered a bit. Big tech layoffs? I mean, they overhire, it's no big deal. Baxter still looks pretty expensive. Okay, gotta look at Gilead next. It's another really interesting company. It'll be interesting, the spin-off, the spin-off will be, you know, a new era for J&J for sure. Keep the lights on. What's up, Ali? My main man. What's up, Joey? Hunter? I'll be back probably around 4. next. We're looking at Gilead real quick, but I am leaving any minute now. Just gonna throw on some jeans. Sangamo, man, bad execution. Politics, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. Try this new thing of checking out ClinConnect. Looks like a much better version of clinicaltrials.gov. Too capitalist for fair decision making. No, I don't think that's right. I just, it's just not my thing. Okay, so lenacapavir is actually approved. Sunlenca. What's up, Weiwei? This is part of the process for sure. Lenacapavir, no cap. It's a fascinating drug. It's for HIV. You take it every 6 months. Isn't that crazy? What a game changer. I'm pretty sure at least that's how you do it. Gross? What do you mean gross? Better than, it's subcutaneous. Should have never treated HIV. That's weird. Let me add you to the ban list here. Nanobots. Every 6 months. Amazing. Loris Labs, I'm familiar with them. They make antivirals. They make nucleotides, really. They're more of like a CRO, CDMO. Gilead can probably get to a cure. I mean, this is close enough. I mean, it's 2 shots every year. I mean, that's pretty damn good. I wanted to make an HIV cure myself. It's like one of the biggest scientific, I've worked with the team, Richard. I've had as many as 10, 15, 20 analysts. One of the biggest scientific endeavors, goals that you could possibly achieve. Nanobots is just a silly concept if you know medicine. Well, there's big margins for the branded companies. Koshank, Gilead's doing really well with HIV right now. I'll be right back. Cut myself trying to fix this chipset last night. Maybe I'll do that on live stream later. Waste in the body is cellular and in solution. It's not, this idea of a nanobot is not the right way to look at it. The body is a bunch of nanobots, right? So waste in the body is disposed of by the body. I think if you look at the scale, we have things like lysosomes and things like that do the job. So chatbots, well, we make those. There are so many roadblocks to curing HIV. It's almost insane to even think about it. But the main one is this sort of dormant HIV that is very hard to excise. It's very hard to get cellular penetration into blood cells. So if you could conceivably get every, CRISPR into every blood cell, you might be able to do it. But it doesn't take much there just needs to be a small population of HIV cells to create a new clone. Not exactly, Morgan. Everything will turn to gray goo. It's the natural order of things. So I guess Gilead bought this company MiroBio. Yeah, HIV drugs are antiretroviral drugs, but in India it's a bit different from the US. Like Loris, making the generics, that's really different from the US where they're very expensive. And the nucleotides are no longer really the main medicines. It's a long story. But yeah, the generic market is very tough, I would agree, for the ARVs. But anyways.
How do you get a job in trading? Funny. Funny guy. COVID-19 nucleoside? Oh. Are we gonna need these? Doesn't seem like we'll need these for very much longer. Injectable generics. I don't tend to focus on the generic market too closely. So you got to have your ear to the ground, you know, to really understand what's going on there. So Gilead is a new COVID drug. Oh, are they doing an oral? Oh, that's interesting. So they want lenacapavir to be an oral as well. There's the BNAB combination for HIV cure. That's not going to work. None of those are going to work. Vaccines would be interesting, but it doesn't look like they have very much going on the pipeline. Long-acting HIV treatment. Guess they're just going to like trying to have as long of a treatment period as possible, but this is a really meager pipeline in an infectious disease. I guess they probably are more interested in oncology in terms of pipeline. No thoughts on biohacking. It seems like a silly concept, silly idea. I wouldn't pursue it if I were you. There's the IRAK4 inhibitor. That's kind of been a disappointing space. Yeah, I guess all the action for Gilead is in this big partnership they have with Arcus. Years and years and years. Yeah, I'll try to read the Zuckerberg. I'll try to do my Zuckerberg impression. I really have to be in the right mood. All right, guys, I think I'm going to take off. Great to see everybody. We'll be back later for the Meta conference call. Don't know what that'll bring, but it'll be really interesting to see how they did given the circumstances they're in. Interesting to see how guidance is as well. Tomorrow morning we got Merck and Roche, so earnings season is in full effect. I do like Tesla. See you around later. Bye.